Pokemon!
It's Bulba Steve!
Bulba Steve. He kind of sounds like he's been smoking forever.
That's what Bulbasaur sounds like.
Yeah, Bulbasaur sounds like he's smoked like two packs a day.
People don't typically pick me.
Yeah, I'm last on the list. Hey everybody, Space Marine Steve here at Hyperspace Hobbies, joined by my good friend Ian. How's it going, my man?
Awesome.
So we're here and we're talking a little bit about Pariah Nexus. So GW has told us that over the next couple of months, they're going to be giving us a new deck of matched play missions.
Very exciting stuff.
That is really exciting stuff. I've actually really enjoyed how Games Workshop has structured the like 10th edition Leviathan like season that we played. So they've presented us with Pariah Nexus. What are some of the big like changes, Ian?
Well, they're definitely what they're previewing is they're leaning hard into battle line units being a little bit more effective and having more roles on the battlefield, being able to do objectives for you that other units can't do them sooner than other units have the opportunity to do them. And some of the mission rules just benefit battle line units as a whole, which is pretty awesome in some circumstances, not so awesome in others. If you have to like sacrifice your battle line terminators doing something that you don't really want them to do, or if it's something that's not going to give you the advantage that you would assume you'd be getting out of something like that.
Battle line is something that like has felt so like, okay, take it, don't take it, who cares?
Yeah,
right?
You could leave home without it, and it's not.
Yeah,
the only
like,
thing you'd be hurting is
maybe OC.
Generally, your OC, but
depending on what you took.
But there's also other ways to be like, oh, you could just put this like banner guy, and he makes your OC more. So there's ways to work around just playing a game without battle line altogether.
Totally, right? So now that they've kind of made it a part of the mission structure, I think we should talk about that.
The weird thing is, I'm not even bored of the old cards. So them releasing a new card pack is kind of interesting because I'm still enjoying playing the old cards and the old missions.
Every season being 1 year long is, I think, a refresh over the course of a single year is enough. Like we played the missions a lot, and I am excited, but I'm not mad that the change is coming. Like it hasn't happened so fast that I'm mad.
Something that I saw that was interesting is in the Orc Codex, the Death Dread mob, allowed a unit that isn't typically battle line to become battle line. I'm wondering if that's going to be a typical thing that we're going to see in new codexes is this unit that wasn't battle line is now battle line. Much like the White Scars detachment from Space Marines making bikes battle line. It might have this kind of new twist in the game where you go, oh, if I play this detachment that isn't so great, but it does make XYZ battle line and thus makes it easier to score objectives. Kind of a weird way to turn things on its head in switching up battlefield rules. So the new mission rule gives battle line units their time to shine, as half of the new mission rules benefit from your core rank and file warriors in some way. So half of the new missions benefit from having a battle line unit either do it or be involved in it in some way. Raised banners happens
it's a big deal
with battle line units, which is great. And you can get additional secondary mission scores from using battle line units.
Yeah, so that's nice. I mean, it definitely is going to force the whole meta to kind of do a very quick shift to make sure they're including enough battle line. But I mean, what I like about this is that it incentivizes you to do it, but at the same time, there is still a balance between battle line units, which have comparatively been weaker than your other data sheets, right? And you're having to strike the balance between how much you can kill versus how much you can hold, and how you're actually going to put those lists together. And so, I like seeing that. The thing with mission rules, though, so those are all mission rules, like the ones they posted on the website, raised banners, and then the rapid escalation one.
Which is interesting. So, it just allows you to outflank, by the looks of it, first battle round, you can outflank anywhere between 100, 200, or 300 points of pure battle line units, which is going to be interesting because this might randomly come up in your matched play games or in your just friendly games. And if you have a unit typically assume that the strike force is going to be what people are playing, which is the 2,000 points.
Yeah,
you can put 200 points in. If you're playing a particular army where your battle line is 201 points, you can no longer do this.
Yeah. Well, like how much are a squad of Grey Knight Terminators?
I don't know.
Like if they're less than 200 points, that means you can be like, I first turn deep strike these Terminators?
Or first outflank. It would be an outflank.
Does it specifically say that, or does it say strategic reserves?
Yeah, it says units from strategic reserves in the reinforcement step of the movement phase. If they do so, those units must be set up.
Okay.
So they do arrive from reserves. But this is a huge benefit for a lot of armies. Like 20 Orc Boys coming in.
Yeah, it's huge.
Right? 20 Orc Boys is 170 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you're not having a character in there.
No, you're not.
There's a lot of interesting things. Will this apply to battle line units that are in a vehicle?
I don't know. But you know what, though? It might not actually matter. So to zoom out for a second, the thing is with Pariah Nexus will also come a Pariah Nexus tournament companion. And they will pre-build missions for us. One of the mission rules that's in there is absolutely going to be Chilling Rain. Right? Yeah, which they may as well just rename Sunny Day because, like, right? Like, because it doesn't do anything. Yeah. And so, depending on how they construct all those missions, we very well could just see a bunch of missions where we're not using rapid escalation because that's not a thing that they want. Right? Like, we might raise banners probably on many of those, I'd guess, right? Like, but we might not act, depending on what missions they include for that, like, tournament companion, we might not actually see things on there. So it's interesting that they've kind of chosen to do that. I'm also curious to see with that, like, are they going to change the train outlet, the train layouts at all?
I think there's word of that getting changed as well.
Yeah, I could see them changing it up a little bit. Yeah. Just some things might not have been working as well as they wanted. Some people might have gravitated towards, a certain layout. So time to change things up a little. And I just hope that they stick with the same plates.
Yeah, if they switch up the
sizing of the plates, I am going to be so livid because I made a set of RTT tournament tables to these plates.
Did you make them? Or did I make them, Steve? Let's be real.
You cut them, but I put them together.
I can't let them do that to me.
All right.
I got to get my own in there. Primary mission, there's one called Terraform, and it says the word action. Now, actions have been used all over this.
8th and 9th edition. Here we go.
And now actions, the quote-unquote action is back. I wonder if they're going to change things like, now throwing grenades is like an action, or doing other things like changing some stratagems to be more action-based.
I could see them making like something like deploy teleport homers an action.
Yep.
And then in the like Pariah Nexus deck, what they say is like, if you're doing an action, you cannot do X, Y, Z or something like that. Like they make it a permissive thing.
They're going to have to give us the wording on what action actually means.
Which will come in that because it actually specifies action.
Yeah.
This is what it means. They might specify in actions. It's like, your unit cannot do an action if. Yeah. Right?
Typically
something,
it was
whatever.
If you're battle shocked or
something, which
something
is
like that. Interesting. I'm wondering if they're going to make the secondary missions more different for attacker and defender, because right now, currently, both secondary missions are the exact same. If you're attacker or if you're defender, usually it's just like, who cares? Just take one of these card sets and we'll just play the game. I wonder if they're going to switch that up and make attacker do more attack style things and defender do more defensive style things.
Interesting idea.
For instance, Mark for Death, which is an attacker secondary mission, you choose units and your opponent just tries to kill those units, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. You mark units on your army and then you try to kill those units up to 3 of them, which is weird.
I don't know if what you said there will come to fruition. I think GW wants to try their best to make the game as fair as they can, and I think if they make like 2 decks different, I think it swerves back to when, do you remember playing 9th edition when they brought out chapter approved, and in there you could select secondaries for your faction?
Yeah.
And like, so what happens if the attacker deck is just way better than the defender deck?
Right. Yeah. That would be the fear, and I assume they wouldn't do that, but it is a potential. That
I think they learned their lesson, and because it's so recent too. Now, if it was like 7th or 8th edition, I think they've forgotten all of that they learned from those editions sometimes. But because it was just so recent, I think that they have learned from their design mistakes in those chapter approved like secondary selections, because we can never go back to, the Necron ones just happen.
Yeah, you just automatically
get your secondaries, I guess, right? Where like the Space Marine ones, you were just like, I don't even know how to do it.
Right.
Right?
Did you ever use gambits? Have you ever even used a gambit
One
or
time.
considered? You have?
One
Did
time.
it work?
Yeah, it did.
It did?
It did work.
Fantastic.
My opponent was so pissed.
I've never used them. Not once. And they're changing now. They're becoming secret missions.
Yeah.
Which is sort of strange. But they sort of defeat themselves before you even get to do them. So here's how it works. There's no random draw. You pick one from the secret mission deck. And
that's a really nice change. I'm just going to interject. That's a beautiful change.
That is nice.
Yep.
At the end of the game, if you've completed its secondary condition, you'll earn a juicy 20 victory points, which is great.
Sure.
There is some risk to go with this reward. If you've picked a secondary mission, you cannot score more than 20 victory points on primary, which is really brutal. You can normally score up to 50.
I don't like the cavalier use of the word juicy.
So opting for a secondary mission will limit you to 40 victory points total for both. Even if you succeed, you'll need to decide if the primary mission is a lost cause before making it a last-ditch tactics switch. I feel like it's already a last-ditch tactics switch.
Yeah, it totally is.
And yeah, when do you choose this? At the third?
End of the third round.
End of the third round. It limits your victory points.
Sure.
And then once you look at what the secret missions actually are, you realize that they're essentially impossible.
Yeah.
So if you're limiting your primary and you're trying to do these outlandishly impossible things, how do these things line up where you actually get to succeed in doing this secret mission?
I don't know. I don't know what they're like. Do you know what their problem is? They don't want the secret mission to be so attractive that everybody just like so easy to accomplish that everyone just does it.
I understand that.
But the problem now is that you're already losing.
You're already losing, and it kneecaps you even further for the potential to get some like.
But okay, so we'll scroll down.
So first of all, secret mission attacker command insertion. At the end of the battle, your warlord is within range of one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone that you control.
So you have to control your opponent's home objective.
Which, I mean, is doable. Let's say this guy just 3-inch deep strikes on it at the end of the game, and he's my warlord. He'll sneak it away from you. If I'm choosing secret missions, I don't know how many secret missions there actually are.
Probably 4.
Yeah. So if you choose one, your opponent can instantly switch to how to counter secret missions mode.
Yeah.
Because they're already winning the game. They know that.
Yeah.
How do they just counter you? One of them is just defend their home objective decently.
Yeah, and then Shatter Cohesion and oh my goodness, Shatter Cohesion and Unbroken Wall, the other ones that they kind of showed, like one of them is table your opponent, and then the other one is control all the objectives. And
in No Man's Land.
Yeah, but it
might as well be control all the objectives.
It may as well be like. What frustrates me about this is it's like you're already losing.
And probably badly.
You're already losing badly enough to consider doing this.
Yeah.
And then what you draw is like table your opponent. In what world? You're already losing the game. Like so you're so behind on primary mission because you can't hold objectives.
Right, that's your issue.
That's your problem. That you draw a card and then it says control all the objectives.
You would choose that card.
Like what?
You could choose to throw the game, or this is where my mind goes to how this actually works. You choose to just hide behind a wall and lose the game for the first 3 turns, and then you purposely choose this secret mission. and then throw all your units on the middle objectives to try to outscore your opponent. That's the only way this is going to work. That's not going to be better than just playing the game at normal.
Just play the game. Like, just play the objectives.
And shattered cohesion is like, you don't know if that's going to happen.
Table your opponent.
It's table your opponent, essentially.
Like, or effectively table.
Yeah.
Where they can't hold objectives, all their units are effectively dead, and they're away from the objective. Like, Ian,
it doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand. The
thing is, we're not really losing anything because gambits were essentially unplayed in most of the games that we.
I've taken them out of the decks.
Yeah,
I don't even take them
out of the
places
deck
anymore.
Most places we go, they're not really allowed. I don't think they're allowed in tournaments.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
yeah,
they
you can use them. Just no one does.
Right. So it's not hurting the game at all. These secret missions being impossible, they're essentially the same as gambits. Gambits were essentially impossible before as well.
Yeah.
They're very, very difficult.
So luck dependent.
Yes, so luck dependent. It was like, can you roll 3 6s? If you do, you get 20.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
These ones at least a little bit more attainable because you can choose what one you're getting.
Yeah,
which
that's
is nice,
true.
But
that is nice.
still,
It's a beautiful change.
I don't see how it's going to be better than limiting your cap on primary score. And I mean, they're just silly.
I'm just so astounded by that. One of them is literally table your opponent.
Could these be better in like a 500-point game or a 1,000-point game? Maybe that's sort of what they're leaning more towards.
Maybe, I guess, but
is that what they're leaning towards? Is if you're playing a 1,000-point game, these are more viable because you could actually just not score and then try to score big at the end.
Maybe, yeah.
So maybe our mindset isn't geared towards these things because we're almost always playing like 1,500, 2,000-point games,
totally.
almost exclusively 2,000.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's hard for our brains to wrap around this. Is because we're thinking big games or bigger games instead of smaller.
And they're thinking a little smaller. Are you ready for a change of missions?
Honestly, no. I'm fine with the missions the way they are, but I'm super excited that they're coming out with new stuff. And with the new, like, kind of push towards, like, battle lines better to take, fantastic.
Yeah.
This might curb that, like, oh, my army wins because it overpowers you.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, now I have to sacrifice some of my power to complete some of these secondaries properly. Like, awesome. This might be a way to mitigate some of those always in your face damage output armies, like 6 demon princes and then 3 greater demons, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, but you need some battle line. Now I'm not playing so many of these high powered butt kickers. You can like kind of steer towards a safer, more balanced game. What do you think? New missions, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm not, but I don't, like you, I don't need the change right now, but that's why I think the change is good right now. Because it has come at a time, and GW sometimes has horrible timing. Like, they either bring stuff out way too early or stuff way too late, and then sometimes that's just what happens. But this is actually coming at a very good time. I'm not ready to just throw my hands up and like start making my own missions yet, right? Because that's where people get to eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I'm not there, but I'm also not mad that this is coming out. Right? Where like sometimes when a new edition rolls out, like if it rolls out too fast, people will be like, I just got into this edition. Why are we going into the next edition?
Or I just got my codex. I've been able to play it for 4 months.
Yeah, for 4 months. Yet here we go, next edition. And so I think that no one's going to be mad about this. And I don't think people are sick of what we previously had. And so they've hit it like on the sweet spot. Perfect timing. And
excellent.
So you know what? Credit where credit is due. I think a year per missions is a wonderful thing. Awesome. Like, I think it's a wonderful thing. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Hey, if you guys have enjoyed our conversation, join the conversation down in the comments. Please like and subscribe. See you later from Hyperspace Hobbies.
Have a good night.